Okay. So you should be seeing my screen. You should be seeing PowerPoint. Okay. So you should be seeing this PowerPoint that says present perfect. You guys have already had this available for about a week, but as I mentioned during the last class, I don't like just giving you material and not explaining it, not going over it. So let's just briefly go over this presentation, and then we can continue with what I have planned for the rest of the class. So yes, this is the present perfect tense. So the present perfect tense is another form of writing and speaking about the present. So basically, it is another present tense. You know, we had the simple, we had the progressive, now we have the perfect tense. And we use this tense to talk about something that began earlier and is happening now. So it does resemble somewhat the progressive tense. And we can also use this tense to talk about our own experience up until this point in time, up until right now. So, for example, we have the example, my parents have been married for years, and you can notice that the verbs are underlined. So, let's take a look at those verbs one by one. Excuse me, but in each example, I mean. So my parents have been married for 40 years. So we have the main verb marry, which is in past tense, even though we are talking about the present. What really makes this tense present is the be verb. So, um, excuse me, the auxiliary have, excuse me. Been is pretty much the same. So the fact that we use have instead of has, that's what makes it past versus making it present. So my parents have been married for 40 years. Nilda has lived in Isabela for most of her life. Once again, we have the main verb that ends with ed, so it would make it past tense. Really, it's the past participle, but uh, you know, anyways, so Nilda has lived in Isabela for most of her life. We still have this auxiliary has, which is a past form of the main verb have. I have seen Django Unchained over 20 times. Uh, Once again, we use have instead of, excuse me, had. If we were to use had, then this would be a past tense. But in the present, we can use have or has, and it's all good. Um, I have played video games since I was a child. Once again, we have the main verb play in past tense. We have the auxiliary have. My neighbor is an author. He has written 3 books. Now we're using here one of those irregular verbs in its past participle form. Um, Really, all of these main verbs are in their past participle form, but um, you can only tell when it's an irregular verb like this one. Um, and finally, Joki's Pizza has been serving the community since 1980. Hmm. I may need to edit this last one because this may be functioning as progressive instead of just the perfect. Um, so take this last one with a grain of salt. This may not be an accurate example, but all the other ones work well because they showcase what you really need in this tense. I'm going to tell you what that is in just a moment. So I think I already gave away this answer, but what did you notice about these previous examples? Talking about the verb structure.
That something has had and have ed. from the present.
Exactly right. So we use the verb in the main, excuse me, yes, we use the verb in its past form, and we always use either have or has. So the basic formula for writing sentences is just as I said here. We use have or has depending on the subject, basically whether or not it's I, you, he, she, it, that type of pronoun. And we use the verb that ends with en or ed. So it is a past participle form. But if the verb ends with n or ed, does that mean that it's in the past tense? Well, technically, the verb, yes. The main verb will be in its past form. So verbs that end with n, such as fallen, beaten, chosen, drawn, etc., are in the past participle form. So basically, to write sentences in the present perfect tense, you use have or has plus a past participle verb. And there's a little hint down here. Remember that not all past participle verbs end with n, so they are irregular. To see that irregular list, that go to Canvas modules week 6, blah blah. So is this past or is this present? To tell whether a sentence is in the present perfect or past perfect, you need to look at the circled verb. So if you were to ask, where is Maria? She has gone to New Zealand for vacation. Okay. Nestor and Stephanie have beaten Super Mario 64 many times, and Adriana has just arrived at my house. In all of these sentences, we use either has or have. And really, that is the only thing that separates this present perfect from its past perfect counterpart. So basically, when we use, what I had aquí. Hold on. We use has or have instead of had. I don't know if you guys can see my camera, but I wrote on my board has, have, and had. So these first two would be in the present, and then this last one would be in the past. Now that you know the difference between the present and the past perfect tenses, what do you need in order to change from the present to the past? All you need to do is to change the circled verb. So remember that circled verb, we use either has or have. Now, we can insert instead this one, had. So we could say, where is Maria? She had gone to New Zealand for vacation. Nestor and Stephanie had beaten Super Mario 64 many times. Adriana had just arrived at my house. Once again, check out the irregular verbs list and look for the past participle form of have. Excuse me. So your sentences need to look like this in order to become past perfect sentences. And this is just me giving you the same answer. She had gone, Stephanie had beaten, Adriana had just arrived. Okay? Really, the perfect tense is, I think it's pretty simple, as long as you always remember that the verb goes in its past participle form, and you know when to use either has or have, or in this case had for the past participle, for the past perfect, sorry. All you need to do is just change that one word and you're golden. And this is a warning for why I wasn't seeing you guys last week. Yeah, I had already explained it, but yes. Okay. Are there any questions or comments about the present perfect tense? We're still gonna look into it in the next part of the class. Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no.
So we need to use has, have, and had, este, and conjugate the verb, right?
In the past tense of the verb, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But recuerden, this is why I separated had, because had is
Yeah,
for
had
the
is
past
in the
perfect.
past,
Hmm.
and has and have is in the present.
Exactly right. I need a
Okay, thank
chair
you.
with wheels because this chair sucks. Okay, let's continue to our next part, which is this thing here. Así lo puedo presentar. Oh, wait a minute. 1 second. There's something else I wanted to use. I just remembered. I'll be in just 1 second. I forgot what it was called. Okay, forget that. Um, let's just continue what I was doing. Open this one here. Okay. Okay, you should be seeing. Uh, you should be seeing a couple of pages from the chapter. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so we're gonna start with example 11. Okay, we can touch base with the negative question and the short answer forms. Um, but I feel like we've already discussed this earlier, so I'm just gonna gloss over it. So of course, to make a negative, all you have to do is add the negatory not, especially now since we're using the perfect form, which we already have. We already use have or has. Um, so basically, it's the same thing as the past participle. All we have to do is add not in between have and the main verb. Excuse me, exactly. So have not, we can contract that as haven't, and has not, we can contract that into hasn't. So I have not or I haven't seen Tom since lunch, and has not or hasn't eaten for several hours. That one's pretty self-explanatory. The questions, we can take a look at that. So in this one, we've just basically changed the structure of the subject and the auxiliary have. Instead of beginning with the subject and then continuing with the auxiliary, we now begin with the auxiliary and then continue with the subject. So if I were to say, not ask, that you have seen Tom, you have seen Tom in that order. We would change it into a question by changing those first two words. In this case, it would be you and have, and changing their order. So, have you seen Tom? Um, you could also affirm that Anne has eaten. To make that into a question, you would change the auxiliary and the subject. So it would be has Anne eaten. You could say the affirmation, you have lived here long. In this case, we would take the phrase, the subject phrase and the auxiliary phrase, and change those up. So, how long have you lived here? Mm, okay, so we can use ever or never. Um, I think we've already discussed the use of ever and never. Um, hold on. Okay. Basically, ever means in your lifetime from the time you were born into the present moment. Okay? So questions with ever frequently use the present perfect. Um, when answering questions with ever, speakers often use never. Never is also frequently used with the present perfect. In answer to F, which is this question here, the speaker is saying, no, I haven't met a famous person from the time I was born to the present moment. So basically, have you ever met a famous person? No, I've never met a famous person. Okay? They both imply at some point between the moment you were born until right now. Um, there's also the short answer, which you guys are already familiar with. Have you seen Tom? No, I haven't. Or yes, I have. Um, it's short because you're not giving me all of the information. And by that, I mean, the question is, have you seen Tom? So the full, complete answer should be, yes, I saw Tom, or no, I haven't seen Tom. Just by omitting Tom's name from that question, it's automatically a short answer. Um, so the short answer uses have or has, and of course, also its negative forms of haven't or hasn't. The helping verb in the short answer is not contracted with the pronoun. Um, so, for example, you don't say yes, I've, or yes, he's. Um, yes, I have, or yes, he has. Has Anne eaten lunch? Yes, she has, or no, she hasn't. Considering the time, I'm assuming she has not. Okay, so let's continue with exercise 11. So what you're going to do is you're going to complete these conversations. Use the present perfect form of the verbs in parentheses. So we have you, we have eat, and we have ever. And we have the rest of the sentence, which is an insect. So basically, you're going to use these. You're going to add things from the present perfect form to complete a question. So in this case, have you ever eaten? So we have you, which is identical here. We have eat, which would be the main verb, and you can see it is in its past participle form. And we use ever, which is also igualito como está escrito. So you eat ever. We just change it up, and we use have, and then we complete a question. So you could say no, I haven't, which would be the short form, and the complete form or the long form, I have never eaten an insect, which isn't exactly true. In Mexico, I tried one of those, uno grillo, and they taste like dirt. So I don't recommend that. Okay, number 2. You stay ever in a room on the top floor of a hotel. Um, so what I want you to do is to take a couple of minutes, complete 2, 3, and 4 of exercise 11. They're already available on Canvas since last week. If not, you can just look at my screen. That's fine. And I want you to tell me these answers. So make the longest blank here. Of course, that would be the question. You use these words that are in here, and you basically complete it by using have or has and organizing these 3 words in the correct order. And of course, main verb, you conjugate it into its past participle form. You make a question, and then you use that to make the short answer or the long answer. And you do this for questions 2, 3, and 4. It shouldn't take you too long. So las 7:51 on my clock. So I'll give you hasta las 55. Of course, you can just turn on your microphones or write something in the chat if you have any questions. So go get on it. Okay, so it is now 7:55, and I'd like someone to tell me the answer for the question in number 2.
Okay, have you ever stayed in a room on the top floor of a hotel?
Okay, I'm gonna just fill in sign here. Have you ever what?
Stayed.
There you go. Have you ever stayed in a room in the top floor of a hotel? Fantastic. Okay. What about the short answer?
Yes, I did. I stayed in a room on the top floor.
Mm, well, you could use
I
did.
did. Okay.
You could use did, but we are using the perfect tense. So instead of did, we have to use the auxiliary that we've been using this whole time.
Haven't.
Okay. In this case, we have to use have because this already says yes. But if it said no, you
Okay.
could say no, we haven't, and that's fine. So stay in a room on the top floor of a hotel a few times. So how do we complete this one?
Pues la misma, ¿no? I stayed.
Okay, stayed, but we still need something to make it the perfect tense, which
Have
is,
stayed.
there you go. Yes, I have stayed in a room on the top floor of a hotel a few times. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Number 3, you meet ever a movie star?
Have you ever
Have you
met a movie star?
also
Have you ever met a movie star? Fantastic. There you go.
No, I have not.
Right. And
I have never met a movie star.
okay, fantastic. Is that true though? Have you ever met one?
I have not.
Oh, that's too bad. I mean, yo soy de Isabela, so me encontré a Víctor Manuel en McDonald's once when I was like 14, 15. But I don't think that counts as a movie star. All right. Ted, travel ever overseas?
Has Ted ever traveled overseas?
Has Ted ever traveled? Me caí en duda, no recuerdo si travel es con una L o con dos. I think both are acceptable. I like the way it looks with one, so I'm going to leave it like that. Has Ted ever traveled overseas? Yes, he.
Has.
Okay. And he.
He has traveled.
Several countries on business. Fantastic. Okay. All right, good job. Let's continue. Oh, I forget those are number 5. If you guys did it, you can tell me, say no, but I'll just give it to you real quick.
Has Lara ever been?
Has Lara ever?
Been.
Okay, good. Has Lara ever been in Mexico? No, she.
Hasn't.
Oh, conjugating. Very good. She be never.
Has never.
Has never what?
Been.
There you go. Yeah, because it's specifying that we need to use the be verb. So yeah, it would be been. Perfect. Ahora me di cuenta de cuán virado está ese PDF, pero pues, ¿qué se puede hacer? We're not going to do number 12. We're going to go to number 13. Actually, I'm going to use 13 and 14 for an assessment, so we're not going to do those right now. We can, yo voy a hacer mejor un discussion en Canvas para que ustedes lo completen. Okay, so 15. Okay, fantastic. So this is more context than anything else. So keeping in mind the structure and the purpose of the present perfect tense, we can circle the correct completion for each sentence. And I'm going to give you the first one. Tyler has rented a house. Okay. Has Tyler rented a house last week, or has Tyler rented a house already? Which of these two makes more sense?
A.
A. Tyler has rented a house last week. What if we were to remove has? Then I think this first option may make more sense. If we just say Tyler rented a house, I think in this case we could use last week. I think it would be more fitting. But the fact that we have has here, I think implies that we may need to choose this one instead. Okay. Tyler has rented a house already. Basically está diciendo que ya Tyler había alquilado una casa. In English, adding this last week, it kind of gives it, like, it doesn't match up. Let's try again with the second one. I have seen it recently, or I have seen it 2 days ago.
Recently.
Okay, that's good. Now, if we were to have erased have seen it and instead use saw, then you could use be 2 days ago. You could say, I saw it 2 days ago, and that would make much more sense. But since we are using have seen, the perfect form, then recently makes the most sense. Very good. Number 3, his parents haven't seen it
Yet.
Okay, very good.
It.
I don't understand why me enseña que un oval, but then it makes the square, but it doesn't matter. I have been there 2 times, or I have been there yesterday.
2 times.
Okay.
2 times.
And it's basically the same thing as the other examples. If we were to have chosen yesterday, it would be because we would change these 2 verbs into, like, say, for example, went. You could say, I went there yesterday. That would make more sense. But since we're not using went, we're using have been, then we use 2 times. So Tyler has rented a house already. I have seen it recently. His parents haven't seen it yet. I've been there 2 times. Would be the answers we're looking for. Okay, so now let's go into the present perfect with unspecified time. So basically what this is unspecified. That means that it doesn't have a definite time. So it doesn't tell you like at 6 p.m. It doesn't tell you last night. It just tells you that it occurred at some point. Okay. So in this rendering, this drawing, Toshi has already eaten lunch. And you can see this kid, he just finished eating his lunch. And Eva, she's about to eat her lunch. So you could say that Eva hasn't eaten lunch yet. So we have those 2 sentences here in A and B. The first one is A. Toshi has just eaten lunch. Okay? It's taking place now, and then it had started before now at a time that is not specified. It doesn't say Toshi began eating lunch 10 minutes ago and he just finished. That would be different. In this case, we don't know when it started, and it's not exactly relevant. The present perfect expresses an activity or situation that occurred or did not occur before now at some unspecified or unknown time in the past. Common time words that express this idea are just, recently, already, yet, ever, and never. Okay? In sentence A, Toshi's lunch occurred before the present time. The exact time is not mentioned because it is unimportant or unknown. We could also say that Jim has recently changed jobs. We don't know how recently. It could have been a couple of hours ago. It could have been a couple of days ago. Could have been maybe even a few weeks ago. But that is not known, and it's not exactly important to the rest of the sentence, so we can continue. So an activity may be repeated 2, several, or more times before now at unspecified times in the past, such as in these 2 sentences. So Pete has eaten at that restaurant many times. You could say that he has eaten on 3 separate occasions before now. And that would be fine. You don't need to specify exactly when it was, as long as you say before now. I have eaten there twice. Okay, that specifies that at least once before I had eaten at that same restaurant. Okay, so in sentence E, it says Pete has already left, or we could actually use the alternate, Pete has left already. Both of these are grammatical, both of these are correct. Oh yeah, already is used in affirmative statements. It can come after the helping verb or at the end of the sentence. So remember that affirmative statements means positive. By positive, I mean it's not negative, and by that I mean que no usa and not, or it doesn't use no. So the idea of already. Something happened before now, before this time. Excuse me. Es como decir en español, Pedro ya se fue, o Pedro se fue ya. Ese ya funciona como en already. In sentence F, over here, Min hasn't left yet. Yet is used in negative statements, and it comes at the end of the sentence. So we use yet only when we're saying something negative, so basically no. And it comes at the end of the sentence. It's always going to be at the end. The idea of yet. Something did not happen before now, but it may happen in the future. So, for example, you could say, I haven't graduated yet, which means that you're still a student, but you will eventually graduate. You could say, I haven't been married yet. Same thing. You have not been married before, but you will be married at some point in the future. Sentence G. Have you already left? Have you left already? Have you left yet? Both yet and already can be used in questions. You know, already can be used in different areas of the sentence, as you see here, and yet always goes at the end. Okay? Well, we could do, I didn't plan for this one, but I just saw the instructions, and we could do half of this. We could just circle all the possible answers. We could discuss the answers later. We could not discuss them at all. But anyways, let's just circle the possible answers. Situation 1. Sarah is at home. At 12 p.m., the phone rang. It was Sarah's friend from high school. They had a long conversation, and Sarah hung up the phone at 12:59. It is now 1. Which describes the situation? Which of these sentences describe the situation? At 12, she got a phone call, and that phone call lasted 59 minutes, and now it is 1 o'clock. So it's been 1 hour since the phone rang. Which of these statements describe this situation best? Is it A, Sarah has just hung up the phone? B, she has hung up the phone already? C, the phone has just rung? D, Sarah hasn't finished her conversation yet? Or E, Sarah has been on the phone since 12?
A.
Okay, so it is now 1 p.m. and she hung up the phone just a minute ago. So yes, we could say Sarah has just hung up the phone. Is there any other of these sentences which works well to describe the situation?
E, maybe?
Yes, Sarah has been on the phone since 12. Well, this would be specific time instead of unspecified, but this is okay. I still think A is the best answer. There could be another one we could use here. If you were to ask um, whether or not
B.
this exactly, if you were to ask whether or not the Sarah was still on the phone, you could say no, she has hung up the phone already. But I still think that the best one would be sentence A. I just think that these also would apply to the situation. Let's go to situation 2. Mr. Peters is in bed. He became sick with the flu 8 days ago. Mr. Peters isn't sick very often. The last time he had the flu was 1 year ago. Which sentences describe the situation? Mr. Peters has been sick for a year. He hasn't gotten well yet. He has just gotten sick. He has already had the flu. He hasn't had the flu before.
B.
B, he hasn't gotten well yet. Let's see. He is in bed. He became sick with the flu. He isn't sick very often. It doesn't say he got better, so I am inclined to agree with you. He has not gotten well yet. We could also say another one.
D.
He has already had the flu. This is true. See, if this book had been written in 2020, then we would be very suspicious of Mr. Peter, and we'd probably keep him quarantined in his house. Okay, so it's either B or D, and I think they're both good, so I'm going to leave them both selected. Situation 3, Rob is at work. His boss, Rosa, needs a report. She sees Rob working on it at his desk. She's in a hurry. She's asking Rob questions. What questions is she going to ask him? Have you finished? Have you finished yet? Have you finished already?
I think C
Okay,
or A.
let's take a look at C. Have you finished already? En español sería, ¿ya tú terminaste? But I don't think it's this one because of the sentence here. She sees Rob working on it at his desk. Thinking about it in Spanish, ¿ya tú terminaste? It would imply like when you find someone and they're not doing what you expect them to be doing. So since he is working, I don't think this one fits. I'm inclined more between A or B. And of course, I'm inclined more towards one than the other. So remember, she is expecting him to be finished with, she is expecting that report soon. And she sees he is working. She doesn't know if he's working specifically on that report. So any other suggestions, A or B?
A.
Okay. Let me reread this. Rob is at work. His boss Rosa needs a report. She sees Rob working on his desk. She's in a hurry and she's asking Rob questions. Have you finished? Okay. Have you finished? It fits pretty well, but there is this sentence here that says she's in a hurry and she's asking Rob questions. And I think yet here adds a sense of urgency because she needs that report now and she still sees him working on it. And this one implies that she's in a hurry, but he's still not done. Have you finished? It just implies just a normal Singapuro way of asking the question. So even though have you finished does fit pretty okay, the fact that she's in a hurry lends more credence to letter B. Have you finished yet? Como que ya tú has terminado. Okay, let's continue. We're not going to do 17. We're going to go to number 20. Is this 20? Oh, no, this is 18. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I thought que no vamos a hacer. So, yeah, we are going to do 18. Pero ya con el tiempo que nos queda, I guess we could do one or two. Okay. I did want to touch base on this, but con el tiempo que nos queda, I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll just do that for next class. So anyways, let's just answer a couple of these and then we can get going. Look at Andy's day planner. You can write answers to the questions, make complete sentences with yet and already. So Wednesday, of course. At 9, he's got a dentist appointment. At 10, he's going to take the car for an oil change. At 11, he's going to shop for groceries. At 12, he's going to have lunch with Michael. At 1, he's going to finish errands. And 2, he's going to pick kids up at school. And honestly, all this stuff takes a lot longer than what this day planner says. Has Andy had his dentist appointment yet? Well, let's see what time it is now. It is 8:17. So in our case, he hasn't had his dentist appointment yet. Oh, this is not good. Gonna be good. Has Andy picked up his kids at school yet? Remember, he picks up his kids at 2, not even at 3. So has he picked them up yet or not?
No, he has not picked up his kids yet.
No, he has not picked up his kids yet. Okay, good. Has Andy taken his car for an oil change already? Well, since the oil, yes?
Could you go like to the Andy's planner? I don't remember.
Okay, que suba.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 10, and of course right now it's 8. So has Andy taken his car for an oil change already? We could say basically the same thing we did in the previous answer and say no, Andy has not gotten, well, let's use the same words, taken his car for an oil change yet. And okay, my phone says it's time. Aquí dice que falta un minuto. Anyways, let's see cuánto falta aquí. Has Andy finished his errands yet? Basically, he has his day planned until 2 p.m. and it is 8:20 right now. So can we say that he's finished his errands? basically now. Andy hasn't finished his errands yet. Okay, now it does say it is 8:20 now, so I think that's going to be it for today. I will, okay, so I'll be posting some a discussion on Canvas for Friday, which is going to be the exercise. I think it was 13 and 14. So these, I'm just going to add a couple of questions to Canvas, and you're going to use, you're just going to write them on a discussion, responding to your peers and stuff. So for now, that's fine. I'm going to start presenting. Okay. So for now, that's it. Well, guys, thank you for your time, your attention, and I will see you, well, I'll see you on Monday, pero pues, pendiente la tarea del viernes, okay? All right, Josian, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Alondra, everybody, have a nice day.